Writing off-camera scenes is an interesting way to approach acting and filmmaking in a primary scene that appears on screen. So what is an off-camera scene? When we look at a script page or the finished film on screen, we see one scene after another in sequence. But what happened in between these scenes? That's what an off-camera scene can help inform. It's a scene that doesn't appear on screen, but gives ideas and context on what the character was thinking and doing before they appeared on screen. Writing the off-camera scene helps the filmmaker and story artist imagine the attitude that a protagonist takes into a scene on screen. That gives the protagonist a specific character objective and through line to figure out the story beats in the scene we're focusing on. Figuring out these off-camera scenes also helps to determine the connective tissue between scenes we see on the script page. This is an approach that Judith Weston teaches in her book Directing Actors, which is effective in analyzing scripts and acting performances in films. For the off-camera scene, we might not write full script pages for it, but we can figure out big story beats for it and establish a structure with a beginning, a middle, and an end to the scene. In the film Rocky, the boxer character played by Sylvester Stallone has an endearing scene when he takes the pet shop clerk Adrian out on a date at an ice rink during Thanksgiving in Philadelphia. It's a memorable scene. So to figure out an off-camera scene that leads up to Rocky and Adrian walking into the ice rink, we can start by asking, why is the ice skating rink scene important to the film? First off, the scene is where we start to see Rocky and Adrian's romantic relationship blossom. Earlier in the film, we saw Rocky visiting Adrian at the pet shop, but she usually doesn't engage him with conversation. Rocky does most of the talking and tries to crack jokes to make her laugh, but his jokes aren't landing. We also learn in another scene that Adrian is Paulie's sister and lives with him. So far in the film, Rocky is portrayed as a boxer, past his prime, who hasn't made much of his life. He works for a small-time loan shark, beating up delinquent payers, and he's constantly disrespected by most people in the neighborhood. But Rocky is a simple, kind-hearted man, and we grow to like him as he trudges through one unspectacular day after another. This ice skating scene is the first big change we see in Rocky's mundane life as he's pursuing Adrian, and their relationship grounds much of the latter part of the film when Rocky gets a title shot to fight heavyweight champion Apollo Creed in the ring. In this skating scene, we also learn more about Rocky's personality and background as he opens up to Adrian, and as he cares for her while she skates shakily around the rink. We see that Rocky often talks out loud as a way to make her feel comfortable. If we did a breakdown of the story beats in this scene, it might look like this. Rocky convinces the rink employee to give them 10 minutes on the rink. Rocky mentions that on their way to the rink, he talked about how he didn't get a chance to make it as a boxing pro. Rocky tells Adrian about being a southpaw and how the term originated. Rocky shows Adrian his dislocated finger, and they draw closer together physically. Rocky shows her pictures of his old fights. Rocky tells her how his father said he should start fighting because he doesn't have much of a brain. Adrian laughs. She says her mother told her that she needed to develop her brain since she doesn't have much of a body. This is a key response as it shows Adrian opening up to Rocky. Adrian then asks, "Why do you want to fight?" And Rocky says, "Because I can't sing or dance." So the final beat is they skate off the rink. So let's think about an off-camera scene leading up to Rocky and Adrian walking into the rink. Maybe there's a scene where they're walking on the street a block away from the location. We know Rocky was starting to tell her about why he never got a chance to make it big as a boxing pro. We also know Adrian is still very shy toward Rocky, and she's walking behind him. So this off-camera scene probably has Rocky delivering most of the dialogue. I start by asking, what is this off-camera scene really about? What's the emotional center? One idea is that it's about Rocky and Adrian both realizing the awkwardness and newness of being on a date together. This scene is about them easing into this new reality and fumbling their way through it. I also ask, what are the character objectives for Rocky and for Adrian? For Rocky, I want to focus on the intended effect he wants to have on Adrian in this off-camera scene by describing his intention with a proactive verb. So Rocky's character objective could be to get Adrian to open up and share a little bit about herself. For Adrian, her character objective could be to get Rocky to prove to her that he's really interested in her and that this isn't some mean prank. So with the emotional center of the scene and character objectives in place, I start thinking about roughing out a beginning, a middle, and an end for this off-camera scene with some broad story beats. Rocky would want to get into discussing the topic of boxing to start a conversation with Adrian, but maybe she's never been to a boxing match before or seen it on TV. He could start off by asking her about what she knows about boxing. Remember, his objective is to get her to open up. Adrian is still very shy toward Rocky, so she's not going to respond much with dialogue. Her objective is to test Rocky, and she would use her silence and shyness to draw him out. Rocky could try to get Adrian to open up by showing her how he punches in a match, perhaps even seeing if she'll mimic one of his moves like he's teaching her. But she doesn't feel comfortable with him yet and doesn't move at all, so his tactic might fall flat here. Rocky might drop the tactic and then openly acknowledge that this probably isn't the best topic to talk about on a date. He recognizes that they're both still trying to get to know each other. Adrian nods in response as they keep walking to the rink. Then Rocky gets the idea to tell a story, saying that maybe a little story time might make their chat easier. So then he goes into talking about how he got into fighting. He could talk about how his dad was an influence on him getting into fighting, foreshadowing the later story beat in the ice rink, when Rocky reveals his dad told him to fight because he doesn't have much of a brain. Here, Rocky starts to talk about his dad, but then stops momentarily as he almost shares something that he feels embarrassed about connected to his dad. Maybe his dad never told him he loved Rocky. In his head, Rocky is thinking about the tough love his dad gave him, so Rocky stops himself, sitting in an awkward moment as Adrian listens. This would be where the scene turns. Rocky doesn't notice. Adrian sees a softer side to him, and she's showing curiosity toward him. What makes the scene a little more interesting is the subtext. Rocky thinks the date's not going well so far because of this awkward moment he's led them into, but actually Adrian is starting to warm up to him. For the audience, we feel this dramatic tension where the protagonist is not seeing something that we are seeing. Rocky could shift gears and shrug it off, then saying he never got his chance to make it as a fighting pro. He's about to start this line of thought when they enter into the skating rink. So these are some of the rough story beats for an off-camera scene of Rocky and Adrian on their date as they walk toward the ice skating rink. Writing the off-camera scene definitely helps to connect what Rocky and Adrian were thinking on their walk to the rink, and it helps us to understand the subtext of their performance as they skate around. Even if the scene isn't great or it's roughly assembled, writing an off-camera scene is a great way to get into the heads of the characters, and also to sharpen writing and rewriting skills by assembling the building blocks of a scene.